All right, what's up, guys? Ryan from Elevate Security. We're going to do another Linux video here for you guys. This one's going to be a lot more elementary here, but I wanted to cover some of the more simple stuff when it comes to Linux and Bash scripting and all of that before I cover some of the more advanced stuff. So we just want to get this out of the way so we're all on the same page here. So particularly in this video, I'm going to be covering variables in Linux. Now, if you guys have used a programming language like Python, you might be familiar with the Python interpreter, right? Essentially, you can view the command line, the Linux command line, in the same way as like the Python interpreter. I can set variables here and call them just from the command line, right? I don't have to, I'm not limited to only doing that in a script, right? Like I can set variable var1 equals hello, and then I can echo it, which is basically like print, like this, and then that is printed to the console, hello. So let's just kind of break this down here for you guys. So in Linux, the way that variables work is when you initialize the variable, you just simply do it like this. Now, the spaces matter in Linux. I believe that this would not be valid, right? Because the way that the command line processes things is it looks at the spaces as like a delimiter, essentially, right? So that is the reason that you can't have spaces here, which that's a little bit different than a lot of languages because it looks at command line positions, basically. So when I have these spaces in here, this is like command line position 0, 1, and 2, if you will, rather than it all being in 1. So in pretty much any other programming language, what you can do is, you can write it like this. But in Bash, you can't have the space. So that's just a little nuance to keep in mind. So that's how we declare a variable, but how do we call a variable? Well, when we call a variable, we need to preface it with the sigil here, which is the $sign. That way it knows that, hey, what we are wanting it to echo refers to the variable var1 and not the string var1. So what I mean by that is if I just echo var1, it just echoes the string var1, right? But we don't want that in this case. We want it to echo the variable var1. So that's where the sigil comes into play. So if we look at all this, the variable stuff, in the context of some scripts that I've actually used, so, let's look at the practical side of this. I always like to, understand the practicality, the practical nature of things. So let's do that here. Here's a example script. I've stepped through this before on my live streams, but never, I don't think, in a dedicated video. So let's look here, right? Now, here I'm using the read command to initialize my variable. And the read command, basically, if you have used Python before, it's kind of like the input command in Python, right? Basically, what you can do, the way I used it here was with the -p flag, so I could put some text and then have it save it to the variable. So read -p, this is what it's going to prompt the user with. Enter hack the box name. And then whatever the user types in, it will save to the variable name. And similarly here, it's going to next prompt for an IP address, and whatever the user enters in, it'll store it as the IP variable. So because we're storing the variable here, we don't need the sigil. We just need the sigil when we call upon the variable, right? So pretty simple so far. Now here when we cd to name nmap, because I have the sigil here, it's going to cd into the variable name. So whatever hack the box name, I'm going into that and into the nmap directory there, which I created above already. And then, similarly here, when we have this nmap command, we're putting in the variable IP. So the IP address will go into this nmap command, all 3 times. So this is just a practical example of how we are using it. I hope that really clears up variables. Pretty short video. There wasn't too much to say about it, but I know it can be confusing with Linux because, for one thing, because of this issue here and that little nuance. A lot of people might be confused by that. Initially, when I first started learning Bash, years ago, that was something that kind of stumped me. So if there's any other questions that I might have overlooked, definitely let me know down in the comments section below, and I can answer them. I can clear it up for you. But if you guys have been enjoying this content so far, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button. We will be covering some more advanced stuff in Linux as we go here, but I want to build a solid foundation, and we'll go from there. So I will see you guys in the next video.